The silent watchers, the void between. Stars held many secrets, but none as carefully guarded as the existence of humanity. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the observation chamber of the shadows edge, her dark eyes fixed on the blue and silver world rotating slowly beneath her ship. 300 million souls lived on that planet, 300 million beings who had no idea their time was running out. The Draxian war fleet hung in high orbit, like vultures circling wounded prey. 18 massive battle cruisers, each one bristling with weapons capable of cracking a planet's crust. Elena had been watching them for 6 days now, documenting their movements, recording their communications, sending encrypted reports back through the quantum relay network that connected her to Earth, always watching, never interfering. That was the prime directive that had governed humanity's relationship with the galaxy for a century and a half. Behind her, Lieutenant Marcus Chen worked quietly at his station, his fingers dancing across holographic displays that only he could see. The young officer had been with her for 2 years, and in that time he had learned to read her moods with uncomfortable accuracy. He knew she was struggling. They all were. The planet below was called Corvallis Prime by the Drax Confederation. The native species called it Lunara, the silver moon, because from space their world gleamed like polished metal under the light of their yellow sun. The Lunari were a graceful people, tall and slender, with skin that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. When they experienced strong emotions, they were artists and philosophers, builders of beautiful cities that grew organically from the landscape rather than dominating it. They had discovered radio communication 70 years ago. They were perhaps 30 years away from their first crude spacecraft. They had done nothing to deserve what was coming. Elena turned away from the viewport and walked to the central command platform, where her crew of 22 worked in hush deficiency. The Shadow's Edge was not a large vessel by military standards. She was built for one purpose only: to move through space without being detected. Every system on the ship was designed around stealth. Her hull absorbed sensor waves rather than reflecting them. Her engines produced almost no thermal signature. Even her life support systems were whisper quiet, recycling air and water with mechanical precision that generated minimal energy output. For 150 years, ships like the Shadow's Edge had prowled the darkness between stars, watching and learning. Humanity had discovered the hard truth about the galaxy. In the year 2473, a deep space probe had intercepted communications from an alien civilization. Scientists on Earth had celebrated for exactly 12 hours before the linguists finished translating what they had found. The galaxy was not empty. The galaxy was not peaceful. The galaxy was a hierarchy of the strong consuming the weak, and humanity was very, very weak. The Drax Confederation controlled this entire sector of space. They were an old empire, ancient by human standards, with a philosophy that was brutally simple. Resources were limited, space was vast but finite. Only the strong deserved to claim what the universe offered. Weak species were obstacles to be removed or tools to be used. There was no middle ground. When the Draxian found a primitive world, they followed a standard protocol. First came observation, then came a message offering integration into the Confederation. The natives could surrender their sovereignty, accept Drax rule and become a labor force for the empire. Those who accepted lived as servants, those who refused were eliminated with clinical efficiency. Lunari had refused. Elena pulled up the intercepted communication on her personal display. She had watched it a dozen times, and each viewing made her stomach tight with anger. The Draxian overlord who delivered the message was a massive creature, nearly 3 m tall, with scaled gray skin and 4 arms that ended in clawed hands. His voice was deep and utterly without compassion. Your world contains minerals we require. Your species serves no strategic purpose. You have been offered the honor of service to the Confederation. You have rejected this offer. Your extermination will begin in 7 planetary rotations. This is not a punishment. This is merely efficiency. Resources cannot be wasted on species that contribute nothing. 7 planetary rotations. The Lunari measured their days differently than humans, but Elena's computers had done the conversion. 7 days. The Draxian had given an entire civilization 7 days to accept slavery or face extinction. That deadline had expired 4 hours ago. Commander Sarah Akinquo moved to stand beside Elena. The tall woman with skin as dark as the void outside served as the ship's executive officer and Elena's closest friend. They had trained together at the Academy on Mars. They had served together on 3 different vessels. Sarah knew Elena better than anyone else on the ship, which was why her voice was gentle when she spoke. The fleet is moving into position. They will begin bombardment within the hour. Our orders are to observe and document. Nothing more. Elena closed her eyes. Orders? She had followed orders her entire career. She had watched the Draxian destroy 4 other civilizations in the past 6 years. She had recorded every atrocity, every act of genocide, and sent the data back to Earth, where politicians and generals debated what to do. The debate never ended. The policy never changed. Humanity remained hidden because revealing themselves meant war, and war against the Draxian Confederation meant facing an empire that spanned hundreds of worlds. Earth had grown strong in the century and a half since discovering the truth about the galaxy. The United Earth Coalition governed 47 colonies spread across 23 star systems. Human technology had advanced in directions the Draxian never explored. Human ships were faster and more sophisticated. Human weapons were devastating, but numbers mattered. The Draxian could field fleets that would darken the sky of any world. Could 20 billion humans really defeat an empire of trillions? The strategists on Earth said no. They said humanity needed more time, more ships, more weapons, more colonies. They said that someday, when the balance of power shifted enough, humanity would reveal itself and challenge the Draxian's cruelty. Someday, always someday, but someday never came for the species that died while humanity hid in the shadows. Captain Lieutenant Chin called out, "I am detecting energy buildup in the Draxian battle cruisers. Weapon systems are charging. They are preparing to fire." Elena walked to the tactical display. The holographic projection showed the Draxian fleet in perfect detail. Targeting solutions were being calculated. Gunports were opening. In minutes, maybe seconds, the bombardment would begin. Cities would vanish. Oceans would boil. The beautiful silver world would become a graveyard, and humanity would watch, document, learn, do Nothing, Elena thought about her daughter back on Earth. Sophia was 12 years old, bright and curious, and filled with questions about the universe. She wanted to be an explorer. Like her mother, she dreamed of meeting alien civilizations and learning about their cultures. What would Elena tell her daughter when she returned home? How would she explain that she had watched an entire species die because orders were orders and policy was policy? Captain Sarah said quietly, "What are you thinking?" Elena looked at her friend. She looked at her crew, 22 men and women, who had volunteered for this duty, knowing they would spend years in the darkness watching horrors they could not prevent. They were good people, brave people. They deserve better than this. How long until the reinforcements could arrive? Elena asked. Sarah blinked in surprise. What reinforcements? The 7th Fleet. They are conducting exercises in the Riel sector. How long until they could reach us if I sent an emergency signal? Sarah's eyes widened. Captain, that would require us to break silence. That would reveal our position. That would violate every protocol we have. That would expose humanity to the galaxy. I know what it would mean. Elena's voice was steady. Answer the question. How long? Sarah checked her tactical computer. At maximum combat speed, approximately 90 minutes. They have 16 warships, but Elena, this is insane. 16 ships against 18 Drax battle cruisers. The odds are not in our favor. Human ships are not Draxian ships. Our weapons are not their weapons, and I am done watching innocent people die while we hide like cowards. The bridge went silent. Every crew member had stopped working to stare at their captain. This was the moment that would define everything. This was the choice between duty and conscience, between orders and morality. Lieutenant Chin spoke carefully. Captain, if we do this, there is no going back. We will be starting a war. Earth might not support this decision. You could be court-martialed. We could all be court-martialed. Then we will face that consequence together. Elena turned to face her crew. For 150 years, humanity has hidden because we were afraid. We built ships and weapons and colonies because we were terrified of what the galaxy might do to us. But we did not become strong just to hide forever. We became strong so that when the moment came when it truly mattered, we could stand up and say that some things are worth fighting for. I believe this is that moment. She looked at each of them in turn. If anyone disagrees, speak now. If you want to follow our orders and simply observe, I will not hold it against you. This decision should not rest on my shoulders alone. No one spoke. No one moved. Then slowly, Lieutenant Chin smiled. It was a fierce smile, the smile of someone who had been waiting for this moment without knowing it. Send the signal, he said. Let us remind the galaxy what humanity stands for. One by one, the other crew members nodded. Sarah gripped Elena's shoulder. I hope you are right about this. The Draxian fleet opened fire. Beams of concentrated energy lanced down from orbit, striking the largest lunari cities with devastating force. Buildings that had stood for centuries became rubble in seconds. The silver world began to burn. Elena watched the destruction on her screens. She counted to 10, giving the Draxian time to commit fully to their bombardment. Then she gave the order that would chain history, decloak full broadcast on all frequencies. Let them see us. Shadow's edge appeared in the void like a ghost taking solid form. The Draxian sensors immediately detected the new Contact. Alarms began sounding across their fleet for the first time in their long history of conquest. The Draxian Confederation faced something they had never encountered before, an unknown species, a mysterious ship, a challenge to their absolute power. Elena opened a channel. Her voice was calm and cold as she spoke words that would echo across the galaxy. Attention Drax fleet, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Coalition vessel Shadow's Edge. You are attacking a protected world. You will cease fire immediately and withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. Silence, then laughter, deep and mocking laughter from the Draxian Overlord. Unknown vessel, surrender immediately or be destroyed. You are one ship against our entire fleet. You cannot possibly hope to win. Elena smiled. It was not a kind smile. You are correct. I am one ship, but I am not alone, and you are about to learn why. Humanity does not fear the darkness. She closed the channel and looked at her crew. Now we fight when shadows strike. The Draxian Overlord's laughter died. His throat, as space itself, seemed to tear open around his fleet, one by one. 16 human warships decloaked in perfect tactical formation surrounding the Draxian battle cruisers like wolves encircling prey. The 7th Fleet had arrived early, pushing their engines beyond safe limits to answer Elena's desperate call. The flagship was called the Defiant, and she was a testament to human engineering. Sleek where Draxian vessels were bulky, elegant where they were brutal. The Defiant stretched nearly 2 km from bow to stern. Her hull was composed of adaptive armor that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. Her weapon systems were based on principles the Draxian had never conceived, and her commander, Admiral James Carthage, was a man who had spent 30 years studying how to kill things humanity had never met. His voice crackled across the command channel to Elena's ship, Shadow's Edge. This is Admiral Carthage. I hope you have a damn good reason for breaking 150 years of protocol and starting what might become an interstellar war. Elena felt relief flood through her chest. The Admiral was angry, but he was here. That meant something. Look at your screens, Admiral. Tell me if you need any other reason. On the planet below 12 Lari, cities were burning. The death toll was already climbing past 5 million. The Drax bombardment continued even as their fleet scrambled to respond to the sudden appearance of human ships. They were so confident in their superiority, so certain that nothing could challenge them, that they had not even bothered to stop firing on defenseless targets. Admiral Carthage was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. The anger was still there, but it was no longer directed at Elena. Understood, Captain. We will discuss the political ramifications later. Right. Now we have work to do. All ships. This is Carthage. Battle Formation Delta. Electronic warfare protocols active. Let us show these bastards what happens when they mistake patience for weakness. The human fleet moved with precision that stunned the Draxian sensors officers. The warships did not simply maneuver. They danced through space with impossible grace. Their coordination was perfect. Their timing was flawless. Within seconds, they had established overlapping fields of fire that covered every Draxian vessel. The Drax Overlord finally seemed to understand that something was very wrong. He opened a channel that broadcast to all ships, human and Drax alike, unknown species. You have made a catastrophic error. We are the Draxian Confederation. We have ruled this sector for 10,000 of your years. We have destroyed civilizations beyond counting. Your 16 ships cannot stand against our might. Surrender now, and we may show mercy. Alina almost laughed. Mercy. The Drax did not know the meaning of the word. She had watched them execute prisoners. She had seen them use civilian populations as test subjects for biological weapons. She had documented their crimes for 6 years, and mercy had never been part of their vocabulary. Admiral Carthage responded before Alina could. Drax Overlord, I am Admiral James Carthage of the United Earth Coalition. Let me educate you on several points you seem to have missed. First, you have not ruled this sector unchallenged. You simply have not. Notice those who chose not to reveal themselves. Second, your confidence in your military superiority is based on fighting species with primitive technology. That advantage does not apply here. Third, you are currently committing genocide against a peaceful civilization that ends now. Overlord's response dripped with contempt. Bold words from a species we have never heard of. You think your mysterious technology frightens us. We shall crush you like we have crushed all others who dared to oppose Draxian supremacy. All ships destroy the unknown. Vessels leave no survivors. The Draxian fleet opened fire. Dozens of energy beams lanced through space toward the human ships. It was an impressive display of firepower, enough destructive energy to vaporize a small moon. The beam struck the human vessel's dead center and did absolutely nothing. The human shields flickered with rainbow colors as they absorbed the incoming fire. The adaptive defensive systems analyzed the energy signatures, calculated the optimal dispersion patterns, and bled off the excess heat into carefully designed thermal sinks. Not a single human ship suffered damage. Lieutenant Chin whooped with joy at his station on the shadow's edge. Their weapons are completely ineffective against our shielding. They might as well be throwing rocks. Do not get overconfident, Alina warned. They will adapt. The Draxian are not stupid, just arrogant. They will modify their tactics. She was right. The Draxian fleet immediately ceased fire and began emergency maneuvers. They were trying to scatter to make themselves harder targets to buy time while their tactical computers analyzed what had just happened. But the human fleet had anticipated this response. Admiral Carthage gave his orders with calm precision. Weapons free. Target their propulsion systems. I want them disabled, not destroyed. We are here to stop a genocide, not commit one ourselves. The human ships fired. Their weapons were nothing like Draxian technology. Instead of simple energy beams, they used focused gravitation lances that could warp space itself. The projectiles were invisible to conventional sensors, traveling at relativistic speeds, bending reality around them as they flew. The first gravitational lance struck a Drax battle cruiser amidships. The ship's hull crumpled like paper as localized gravity increased to crushing levels. Metal screamed. Bulkheads collapsed. The vessel's main reactor went critical and had to be emergency vented into space. Within seconds, the mighty warship was reduced to a powerless hulk drifting in the void. A second lance struck another battle cruiser, then a third, then a fourth. The human weapons were devastatingly accurate, surgically precise. They targeted engine sections, Power distribution nodes, weapons. Control centers, they crippled without killing, disabled without destroying. In less than 2 minutes, half the Draxian fleet was dead in space. The remaining Draxian ships tried to fight back. They fired missiles, launched fighters, attempted to ram the human vessels, and desperate suicide runs. Nothing worked. The human point defense system swatted missiles from space like insects. The Draxian fighters found themselves outmaneuvered by human drones that moved with inhuman precision, and the ramming attempts were thwarted by gravitational fields that simply pushed the Draxian ships away. On the shadow's edge, Alina watched the battle unfold with mixed emotions. She felt satisfaction that the bombardment of Corvallis Prime had stopped. The Draxian could no longer afford to waste energy on planetary targets when they were fighting for survival, but she also felt a deep sadness. This battle was necessary, but it represented the end of something important. Humanity's age of hiding was over. After today, the galaxy would know they existed. The consequences of that revelation would reshape everything. Commander Akono stood beside her, watching the tactical displays. "We are winning," she said quietly. "Against all odds, we are actually winning. This battle," Alina replied. "But what about the war that comes after?" The Draxian Confederation spans hundreds of worlds. When they learn what happened here, they will send everything they have against us. Then we will face that challenge when it comes. Right now we are saving 300 million lives. That has to count for something." Alina nodded. Sarah was right. Whatever consequences came from this decision, whatever price humanity had to pay, it was worth it to stop what was happening on the planet below. The Draxian Overlord ship was one of the last still capable of fighting. The massive flagship tried to retreat, its engines burning at maximum power as it desperately attempted to reach the minimum safe distance for a faster than light jump. Admiral Carthage was not about to let that happen. Defiant to all ships, the Admiral ordered, "Concentrate fire on the flagship. Disable that vessel. I want the Overlord alive. He has information we need, and he will answer for his crimes." 3 gravitational lances converged on the Draxian flagship. The first destroyed its main engines, the second collapsed its shield generators, the third punched through its command deck, creating a localized gravity well that crushed every system in a 50 m radius. The Overlord ship went dark, tumbling through space like a broken toy. The battle was over. 18 Draxian battle cruisers floated helpless in orbit around Corvallis Prime. Some still had minimal power. Most were completely dead. None were capable of continuing the fight. The human fleet had achieved total victory without losing a single ship or suffering a single casualty. Alina took a deep breath. "Scan the planet. Give me damage assessment." Lieutenant Chen worked his console using the shadow's edge's advanced sensors to survey the world below. His face grew grim as the data came in. 12 major cities destroyed or heavily damaged. Estimated casualties between 5 and 6 million. Could have been much worse. Draxian had only just begun their bombardment when we intervened. If we had waited even an hour longer, the death toll would be in the tens of millions. 5 million people. 5 million lives that could have been saved if Alina had acted sooner. She felt the weight of that knowledge settle on her shoulders like a physical burden. But 6 Million people had died and hundreds of millions had been saved. She had made the right choice, even if it had come at a terrible cost. Admiral Carthage's voice came through the communication channel. All human vessels secure the Draxian fleet. Boarding parties will transfer prisoners to the Defiance brig. Recovery teams will assist any Draxian crew trapped in damaged sections. Captain Vasquez, you are with me. We are going down to the planet. Someone needs to explain to the Lunari what just happened. Alina felt her stomach tighten. First contact. Humanity was about to reveal itself, not just to the Draxian but to the species they had saved. She had studied the protocols, read the guidelines, trained for this scenario 100 times, but no amount of preparation could truly ready someone for the reality of meeting an alien civilization. Commander Akinquo will have command of the Shadow's Edge. Alina said. Lieutenant Chen, you are with me. Choose 3 crew members you trust. We are going to make history. 2 hours later, a human shuttle descended through the atmosphere of Corvallis Prime. The craft was small and sleek, designed for stealth but configured for diplomacy. Admiral Carthage sat in the passenger compartment alongside Alina and her chosen team. The Admiral was a tall man, in his 60s, with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. He looked tired, but his voice was steady as he briefed them on the situation. Our sensors detected a large gathering of Lunari in their capital city. What is left of their capital city anyway? They appear to be waiting for us. Their radio broadcasts are filled with questions and fear and hope. They know we stopped the Draxian attack. They want to understand who we are and why we help them. What do we tell them? Alina asked. The truth. Carthage replied. We tell them that we are humanity. We tell them where we come from. We tell them that we have been watching the galaxy for a long time, and we decided that today was the day to step into the light. We tell them that they are not alone and that they have allies now. The shuttle landed in what had once been a beautiful plaza in the heart of the Lunari capital. The square was now scarred with debris from buildings damaged in the bombardment. Fire still burned in the distance. Air smelled of smoke and death, but thousands of Lunari had gathered despite the devastation, waiting to meet the mysterious strangers who had saved their world. The Lunari were beautiful in a way that made Alina's breath catch. They were tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered with soft silver light. Their eyes were large and expressive, filled with intelligence and emotion. They wore robes of woven fabric that seemed to shift colors in the sunlight. As the humans emerged from their shuttle, the Lunari skin began to pulse with patterns of light. Fear and curiosity and desperate hope all played across their bodies like living art. Admiral Carthage stepped forward first. He had removed his combat armor and now wore a simple dress uniform. He raised his hands in a gesture of peace and spoke in English, knowing that the Lunari would not understand, but hoping his tone would convey his intentions. The shuttle's external speakers translated his words into the Lunari language. People of Corvallis Prime, I am Admiral James Carthage. I represent a species called humanity. We come from a world called Earth, far beyond your sky. We have watched you from the darkness for many years. Today we chose to reveal ourselves because we could not stand by and watch the Draxian destroy you. You are not alone in the galaxy. You have Friends now, and we will not let anyone harm you again. The crowd of Lunari was silent. Then slowly, an elderly Lunari stepped forward. Her skin glowed with a soft golden light that Alina's cultural database identified as a sign of great age and wisdom. The old one spoke in a voice that trembled with emotion. We are the lunar of the silver moon. We thought we would die today. We prayed to our ancestors for deliverance, but we did not truly believe salvation would come. You are strangers to us. We do not know your kind, but you fought for us when you had no reason to do so. You saved us when we could not save ourselves. How can we ever repay such a debt, Admiral? Carthage smiled gently. You owe us nothing. We did what we believed was right, but if you wish to repay us, then live, rebuild your cities, raise your children, create your art, and share your stories, survive and flourish. That is payment enough. The elderly Lunari skin shimmered with colors that the database identified as profound gratitude mixed with overwhelming relief. She bowed deeply, and the thousands of Lunari behind her did the same. The humans returned the gesture of respect. Alina watched this moment of connection between two species meeting for the first time, and she felt something shift inside her chest. This was why humanity had become strong, not to conquer or dominate, but to protect and preserve, not to impose their will on the galaxy, but to offer hope to those who had none. The shadow's edge hung in orbit above the saved world, and across the vast darkness of space, news of what had happened began to spread. The Draxian Confederation would learn that their fleet had been defeated by an unknown species. Other civilizations watching from the shadows would hear that someone had finally challenged the Empire's cruelty, and on Earth politicians and generals would realize that the age of hiding was over. Humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy. The consequences would be severe and far-reaching. War might come. Conflict seemed inevitable. But on a silver world called Corvallis Prime, 300 million people lived who would have died if humanity had remained. In the shadows, Captain Alina Vasquez stood on alien soil beneath an alien sun, and she knew with absolute certainty that she had made the right choice, whatever price had to be paid. For this decision, it was worth it. Some things were worth fighting for, some lives were worth saving, and humanity at last had chosen to stand in the light. The stars would run red with consequences, but humanity would face them without fear. The time for hiding was over.